Hi, I'm Andrew Berman with the Mortgage News Network, and we're here at the Northeast Conference of Mortgage Brokers and Mortgage Professionals in Atlantic City. I'm joined by Barry Habib, who's a legend in the business. You've seen him on CNBC, you've seen him actually telling us for many, many years about the direction of rates. You've been a leader in that. I mean, listen, the reality is, Barry, you were doing this and you created a whole business that people depend on now. I mean, right now at MBS Highway, you have thousands and thousands of mortgage professionals throughout the entire country that rely on you to give them, guidance on rates. Now, one person might say, hey, listen, maybe it's not as important because the compensation isn't tied to, to how much money you can make on a rate anymore. But I personally feel that it's as important as it was then, and even maybe more important now because we're trying to give a better client experience. Share with us why it's so important today to be on top of your game when it comes to knowing direction of rates and direction about the market overall.
Andrew, you couldn't have nailed it better because, first of all, thanks for the kind words. We are absolutely in an area where we're being shopped by many different sources, many different ways, and rather than try to work with your customers the way that it used to be done, certainly when I was originating, we have to kind of adapt to being able to facilitate the needs of millennials the way they like to be sold. I mean, they are now the largest demographic in the United States. 3 months ago, they surpassed baby boomers. I'm a baby boomer. I'm by the tail end though. But baby boomers were the largest birth range. However, now millennials have become the largest demographic. And here's some good news. Millennials right now, if you were to take a look at the millennial chart of births, according to Zillow, the median age that someone's a first-time home buyer is age 33. That's kind of the beginning of the growth spurt of millennials. Oh, wow. So demographically, the housing market looks real good. And then when you look at second-time buyers, the second time somebody purchases a home, that looks really good. So I think the housing market, at least from a demographic standpoint, looks exceptionally strong. In addition to that, you have the interest rate outlook, which, look, interest rates are going to be volatile, and certainly refinances will be much more sensitive to that. But on a purchase side, look, you're going to have a really healthy, good environment. And inventory levels are low. That's a good thing, although the media doesn't understand that. And so long as we don't get areas where there's a glut in the market and it doesn't get too hot, 5% appreciation is really realistic and sustainable for a lot of years. And that can create a tremendous amount of wealth. People don't recognize that. But to answer your question, and thank you again for your kind words, we have to be a great resource. You have to be sharp, you have to know what you're talking about, you have to read NPM, you have to get all of the benefits that when you speak to that individual, they feel as if you are the resource that they want to work with, because they're going to get the same rates from everybody else, or pretty darn close, and you don't want to make it a commodity. You have to give them valuable advice that will help them make the decision to come with you.
That's great. Barry, listen, one of the things I've always loved about your service and what you do out there is, because first of all, you were an originator. You were out there. You had your hands and you had your signatures on 1003s, many, many 1003s. So I think from that perspective, it helps actually you create a better product with the MBS Highway. So, but I'm curious if today, if you went and you were going to go originate today, just give me some practical tips. You wanted to capture the millennial marketplace. You moved into an area that you knew no one. What are the first things that you're doing to establish yourself in this new market?
If I were going to try and be the best I could be as an originator, I'd want to understand the financial market, certainly, because it's a lot more than understanding how to put an application together. Well, that's critical, we know that. But you have to have all of the elements to really make that customer feel that they're gaining from you, they're gaining knowledge from you. But then I'd use some other tools too, things like social survey. Social survey takes all of your customers, surveys them. It can generate business from it because you get a lot of referrals that way, but in addition to the critical nature of the survey itself, it knows all your positive ones, takes them, posts them to all your social media, but does it in one place, so you're indexed so that through your search engine, it'll come up usually #1 page on Google. So now that adds a lot of credibility because your first page Google, and people don't usually go to the second page. In addition to that, it takes the surveys that aren't so good, allows you to turn them into raving fans. Now, it does a lot more than that. It's really inexpensive. I'd work with that. Card Tap is another one. Card Tap is great for millennials because, look, we know millennials, they're not so much phone talkers as they are texters, right? So this takes your business card and communication tools, puts it on their phone while they're shopping. You know when they're looking at some of the tools, and it puts a bunch of tools on there that they're going to use for the shopping process, and they can communicate with you via text. It really bridges the gap, and one of the things that we have to do is sell to people the way they want to be sold to, as opposed to the way I was taught to me as the platinum rule. The golden rule is do unto others as you would do unto yourself. The platinum rule is do unto others as they want you to do unto them. So that really kind of falls into that platinum rule. Tony Alessandro taught me that many, many, many years ago. So those are some of the things I'd be looking at doing today if, as you say, if I were kind of like starting up in a market. Look, and there's a lot of great things you could use. There's a lot of important aspects of it. There's no one magic bullet, but these are some of the things I'd be looking at.
That's great. So what about the, what else could we do to be attracting more millennials into the business as originators? Because these guys are getting older. I mean, listen, Barry, we were the youngest around here. Actually,
you're still pretty young. You're still pretty young. I'm old.
But the problem is, there's no one coming in. Actually,
you're right. There's very few, and the median age, as you well know, is 54 years old. As far as how about realtors? Median age 57. So it is an industry that is accustomed to an older way of doing business, which was very successful, but we do have to adapt. That's why I mentioned some of these tools. Some of the responsiveness that you have to give is different than the way we would have done it or that we were accustomed to doing it. But it's also the gathering of data. It's not enough now to just be a good referral source for somebody. So in other words, the realtor would say, Andrew's a good guy, so you should work with him. And look, that carries a lot of weight. But this is more of a Yelp world, okay? So what they're going to do is they're going to investigate very quickly on their own, and they're going to find reviews. That's why that social media tool that I told you, social survey, it's critical, because then when they Google you, bingo, your first page, and now you've got all these positive reviews, that's what turns on a millennial. So those are the 100%. Types of things. And look, if I could say, sure, of course I'm biased to MBS Highway, but when you have that conversation, if you understand the markets, if you understand the real estate demographics, if you're able to give them that advice, that does carry a lot of weight because knowledge is still respected. Wisdom is still a valuable commodity.
I agree. Listen, I believe in this business, you need two things, from a technology standpoint. You need an LOS, obviously, and you need a system like yours to have the ability to know what to say and what to send to your borrowers or potential borrowers.
Well, we try to do that every morning. I do a quick 5-minute video which coaches them on what to say today, what's happening, and gives you great talking points.
And also you can catch, every Monday we do the Master of the Markets. Appreciate that. You catch that at 7 o'clock.
Our friends at United Wholesale Mortgage sponsor that. They're awesome.
Yep, they are. They truly are. So Barry, listen, thank you for taking the time to join us today.
You're the best.
Thank you. It. I'm Manager Berman for the Mortgage News Network. Thank you for joining us.
Rock star, right here.
This is Mortgage News Network.